What's poppin', BSN?
What's up, guys?
Okay, so y'all know every now and again, every now and again, whatever.
Often.
On the channel, sure, at some
It
point
happens.
in the space-time continuum
And on
force
TikTok, too.
of reality. We'll each come up with ideas about things we would like to do or see in the story or franchise, and the other person will ask questions.
Like follow-up questions.
Yeah, like an interview or a critique.
Story development.
Or an interview.
Or an interview.
I couldn't think of anything else to say. So today is my turn, and what I want to do is a sequel series for Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's not Legend of Korra.
That's not Legend of Korra.
I'm prepared to die on this hill. It's not a good series. It's not bad.
No.
But it's not good.
Nah.
Pretty much.
I mean, I know why it's not good, but most people don't really want to have the conversation.
I mean, I feel like it's like it's like Star Wars, and it's like the Wonder Woman movie falls apart in the third act of the whole situation. Starts off very strong, and by the third act of Star Wars, I mean prequel trilogy, original trilogy, and the sequel set of 3 films, pretending to be a trilogy.
Yeah.
Falls apart at the end. Like, it doesn't make sense. And even the beginning was a little shaky because, anyways, we're not going to talk about that.
That's not what we're here about.
And
it's not important for what we're doing.
Yeah. But what I want to do is, I do like the idea of, like, showing this world through time. I did think that was really cool.
Yeah, that time jump and, like, the difference in technology was really interesting to see.
Yeah. And I feel like that's not explored in stories often, like the mystical powers in a suburban setting, with like peak powers though. Like, I mean, we're not dishing on Legend of Korra, but they like decrease the powers,
increase the technology.
To make that story work. And I'm just like,
they can both exist.
Yeah, like Avatar,
it's
like Anna's going full Avatar mode and like manipulating oceans. Uncle Iroh was redirecting lightning.
From the sky, like regular lightning. Like, not just generated lightning. Like, he learned how to do it with storms.
Right.
That's so interesting.
Like, we had dragons.
Dragons!
And you guys are being put off by, like,
people with electric gloves?
Golf carts and electric gloves? So what is happening? Again, this is not what this is about.
It's not what it's about.
I actually wanted to hone in. So in the story that I want to do, there's intrigue, there's political intrigue, there's like a king and queen, not king and queen, a president and his wife.
Democracy.
Yeah. And she's giving birth to the next avatar, but instead of being one child, the avatar is 2. That's right.
Twins.
She had twins. And biologically, that works. And I thought that would be fascinating because obviously the whole mythology thus far is that the avatar is only one person. So what happens if the avatar is 2 people? And not like power levels split, but like 2.
That was my first question. Like, does one person get like fire and water and the other one gets like air and earth? And like they have to do like a Massimanos avatar style.
Massimanos. It's a very amazingly deep cut.
Like, they can only like
Massimanos or what do they do? Fusion, Dragon Ball Fusion,
or the Wonder Twins. Like,
oh my god,
that was my thought. Like,
so
do that.
No, that wasn't it. Although that is actually interesting. What if like one can only control 2 and the other one could only control 2, and they had to like figure out how to work together because together they were one whole avatar? That's interesting. That's separate. But in this one, both twins are fully realized, or they're on track to be fully realized avatars. So it's 2 people, and so that's kind of like the point of the story. It's like some people knew that it was supposed to be, that they knew she was having twins, and someone always knows the thing that's not supposed to be known. And so they're like, yo, if it is twins and they are the avatars, we gotta hide you and the kids because this has never happened and everyone's gonna want to kidnap them. Obviously that happens. well, there is an attack, and then they're spirited away to learn how to be avatars. The attack is thwarted by the head of like some intelligence agency, which I wanted to be the descendant of Jet.
And I said that doesn't make any sense because Jet died in the series. And he was like, Jet died in the series? And I was
forgot.
like, Long Fang killed him in Lake Laogai. And he was like, oh my gosh, Jet's dead.
Yeah, in the little underground cavern thing. Cavern?
Cavern.
Ooh.
Mm.
That was a slippery road. Little black ice of the mind. So, yeah, I forgot about that whole scene.
So it would have to be someone else.
Well, it's my story, so I'm electing to give Jet, even though I know like his family was brutally murdered
by the Fire Nation, which is why he wants to go after the Fire Nation. That was his entire driving force was that he has no living relatives. You just want to go back and give him a relative that survived.
I will. So it won't be
like Smellerby have a kid or something.
Yeah,
like that.
It won't be a physical descendant of Jet. It would be a spiritual descendant of Jet. One of Jet's friends had kids.
The freedom fighters.
Yeah. And they obviously told their child about Jet, and that kid was very inspired, and blah, blah, blah. So this person in the future, several generations in the future.
The spirit of Jet lived on.
Yeah, it's functionally who Jet was, just like the cool, no nonsense, but like ready to fight and could throw hands, but didn't have any powers, is like the head of this people's, Secret Service, CIA, FBI, whatever. So he goes and is trying to get there in time. He doesn't get there in time. There's an attack, blah, 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 blah. So the point of the story is like that's happening. He's part of like the political intrigue. There's a traitor inside. But yeah, it's two avatars. They're twins. It's two avatars. And their big bad, if you will, is a coven of witches.
We've never had witches before.
Nope, never had magic.
Nope. We just have literal spirits and bloodbending. Yeah. That's it.
Which looks like magic, but
it worse. It's worse.
There could be a slight argument that the entirety of the Avatar world and like bending is a form of magic, and I only say that because
the swamp.
Well, no, not the swamp. Actually, so a friend of mine on Facebook was talking about Dragon Ball Z, and it's basically like, yeah, they're extraordinary fighters who can focus psychic energy. Like they're psychics. They have psychic powers, and that's how they amp up. And I was like,
interesting.
I guess that's not technically wrong.
Like not technically.
Yeah. And it just like it has a physical manifestation, but it's literally, and I was like, yeah, they're concentrating,
focusing really hard.
Yeah. And they use like martial arts to hone it, but it's like psychic energy projection that they have. And then I thought about instant transmission. You don't know? Do you know? You know instant transmission.
I have not seen most of Dragon Ball.
So instant transmission is his teleportation. And so when he does it, he puts his fingers over his head, and then he mentally locks onto his energy signature, and then teleports. So
that seemed pretty psychic.
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way, and honestly, it's still rattling me quite a bit. But I do feel like, okay, so maybe some people be like, yeah, but it's all magic. Well, it's not. That's where we're going with that.
Like you could see it. Well, I mean, if you consider it all being magic, would like the witches then be able to do some low level bending, even if they're not actual benders? Like, would the non-benders be able to do like incantations to like? Oh,
to affect like the elements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like in the fight, like during the fights, they like mess with the bending because they're tapping into the wavelengths of the magic that is the bending.
That is interesting. I was just prepared to throw it out as like it's not magic, but calling it magic. I would say yes, but on like a very high level, like
like only the strongest ones can actually.
Yeah, because even.
But I mean, if it's like a coven, there would be.
Well, but like, now you're having black eyes in mind.
Because I saw the word and I was like, that O actually doesn't make the O sound.
Nope. Take it back to pre-K. Well, no. So like, cause in the story, it is kind of that. So there's a woman who essentially teaches herself magic. And so like as the kids are being born, she's like, drawing like the mystical circles and stuff on the ground and activating powers. And so it is about incantations. It's so weird creating mythologies or advancing mythologies in this time frame because there's so many different ways to understand things that you didn't have to think about. So it's like, benders are born with, we can call it elemental magic, and she's hacking the system with spells and incantations. But it's like the same. It's like, yeah, there's computers that work and you can access through Wi-Fi, and there's other people who just enter a completely different line of code to accomplish the same goal.
Wrong formula, right answer.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I still, I wanted it to be the distinction because, like, obviously the elemental magic users, benders, they are tied to what they can do. So water bender's only been water, fire bender's only been fire. Yeah. Unless you're tough, in which case you can just invent your own bending because you're just
anything.
that dope.
Do anything.
Like, this didn't exist, but
I'm gonna make
it does.
I'm gonna make it.
No, it does. But I wanted the witches and this whole, like, this coven to be, like, it's very specific magic. So it's I think more affecting the element and more like
they can less more.
I don't know. Less affecting the element and more like curses.
Okay.
Think like Jinx from Teen Titans.
Okay.
So she had like a level of magic and witchery and hexing, but definitely more along that side to where they can.
So like disrupt other people's bending.
But
not directly disrupt the bending, or just like disrupt everything.
I would disrupt everything, but something it's like it's a power that they can. So if they're battling a firebender, it's not that they're trying to stop the fire from happening or the bender from being able to bend, but like if the fire's coming, then they can do a magic shield, or I don't know. Well, I guess maybe they can do some water thing. Also, what's her face in The Witcher is also who I'm thinking of.
Yennefer?
Yes.
I hate her.
Yes, I know you do. I did a whole video on that.
It wasn't the whole video. Okay, that was just a portion of the video.
But yeah, like Yennefer too, and maybe as this is developing in my head, maybe leaning more into that aspect of witchery from the Witcher himself, and them having like there's incantations that are like protection spells or like energy concussive blast, but also there's potions, so you can take a potion and it makes you physically strong, so you can't bend, but you're fireproof.
Okay.
Or you can breathe underwater.
Yeah.
Because of, and so maybe that is more the way to go. So it's like, okay, I need 2 toad legs and like some cinnamon spice and a little bit of garlic.
Toad, cinnamon, and garlic.
Yeah, with a dash of Laries.
Not the Laries.
But and so it's like
make a gumbo. Stop. Frog leg gumbo. Get out of here.
That's hilarious. So yeah, maybe something like that. But I wanted it to be like this. There's this real thing because like they're accessing dark. But and I mean, it depends on how. Because as you're asking the questions, it's occurring to me how important the distinction is. So we can do potions, and we can also go to we can go really dark, and they're accessing demons and demonic power.
I mean, there are spirits, so
right, and so that could be the whole witches thing. It's like, sure, we use the potions and everything to kind of like learn, and we have like protection spells and basic stuff, but what their actual goal is to channel the power of demons, in which case it would not matter. They would not need to like disrupt bending. That makes it distinct. because, if you got the power of a demon, it doesn't matter which bender you're fighting if the demon's, taking over you. Not in like the Etrigan way where it's literally
gone the form of man, now rise, Etrigan.
You really just
quickly,
have that
right?
on deck.
Quickly, right? Okay. I don't even know why. I haven't seen those episodes in a couple, I feel like months.
Okay. All right. That was a little alarming. Not gonna lie. But I think that might be it, and I feel like that then creates the reason why they need to be stopped. Because if it's just, non-benders now have magic and you can do stuff too, then it just seems like you're hating. It's like, you can't
non-benders can't have anything.
Yeah. But if it's like they're accessing the demonic plane, that's dark. And then obviously if you're doing that, then you are messing with like the spiritual balance. Going back into Legend of Korra, which I do think that was a good idea, I just don't think that was the solution to just like put the spirit and physical world together. It doesn't make any sense. But
it was separated for a reason.
Yeah. But playing upon the idea of like when you mess with the spiritual, it does impact other spiritual and the physical. And just so
So the twin avatars are taking on witches. I'm sorry, I completely interrupted you. But
so basically, that's that. Yeah, it's twin avatars taking on witches.
Children avatars. So like, how are they a threat to the witches?
Well, I mean, there's two avatars in the world.
Yeah, sure. But if they're like imbuing demons and stuff, and they have protection against like the elements, like what is an extra avatar going to even do?
Right. No. Yeah. That's a good point. So in this story, it's all starts off at the same time. So like the twin avatars are born, and this one woman starts developing witchery and witch powers. Neither one of them are fully developed. In like the first, I think, the opening of the first episode, I think I had it, and then it jumps forward 10 years, and so they're 10 years. But in that, because remember the family went into hiding, so that entire 10 years they were being trained in their avatar powers by some old wise guy.
Okay, but still, like if they're tapping into the demon plane, how is an avatar going to be a threat to them, even if it's two?
Well, because we're learning and we're playing upon what has already come before. So we know that that avatars can bend energy because of their connection to the spiritual plane. So it is a spiritual battle, like up here in the woo-woo space. But the avatars would, at least in my head, the avatars obviously are the opposition to the witches, because if there's anyone on the planet that can stop the witches, it's the avatars, because avatars, I mean, we don't really know what the limits are of being able to manipulate energy and chi energy. Like, we don't know. All we know is he messed up Ozai. And so it could be that you can't take away magic, but the witches would have no way of knowing that. All they know is that, the avatars at this point, because remember, we're in the future, so they, from their perspective, avatars can do anything. They can manipulate the elements, they can take away your chi. They would have heard the stories of Azula and her crew, so they can take away your chi, they can lock up your chi. Like, avatars can do anything. They can do anything. And so this is their way of fighting back. And like, no, you can't do anything. Matter of fact, we can do anything. And so that would make the avatars a target for the witches, but also because it's two avatars, that would just make them a target in general. Because, to use an extremely poor example, but actually no, this is not a bad example. Imagine if Vader knew all along about Luke and Leia. Being able to train them and have them on his side from the beginning to go out and just wreak havoc would have made them incredibly powerful and would have made his reign so much more easy. And so people want these two avatars, even if it's just one, to kill the other one and control. But But if you have 2 avatars, you could take over the planet feasibly. Because I would also like to play this show in the vein of The Force Unleashed. Like we're not playing small here. We're playing this like season 4, book 3 of Avatar, where everything's completely over the top.
With 10-year-olds?
Well, yeah, they've been training the whole time.
But they're 10.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna like, grow over time. But that's why it's important in the first episode to highlight both these things are starting at the same time, because just like it's hard for children to learn how to be fully realized avatars and still be people.
But I feel like that's different for like a witch to start learning the craft of witchcraft and give her 10 years as a whole adult, and for small children to learn how to walk and talk and then bend several elements to the age of 10. I feel like they're on an equal footing, like the avatars are at a disadvantage.
I mean, possibly. But I do want. I mean, in all the other forms of the avatar, they don't have to be taught necessarily how to bend. Like the bending there's some instinctive bending that's already happening, and it's always alluded to that with training, like it would have been better. But I also do want to, at least for me, for this, I want it to be like, she's not finding ancient texts. Like she's creating all the spells that are to come, all the incantations and all that. So she's doing this herself and designing it from scratch. So as an adult, sure, it may be easier for her, but think about all the potions that like really old witches and wizards have. Like you don't just come up with that in 5 years or 10 years. Like that's a lifetime's worth of like, oh, okay, yeah, I know how to do all this stuff. I have extra of this powder. I've traveled to the bowels of the earth and fought this rare dragon to get this one scale that I need to do this thing. Like it takes time to become a fully realized warlock. And so I am pitting that against becoming avatars. Now, I would say that there would probably be more jumps through the series, because I feel like eventually that does come back around, because if you have this adult in 20 years and then, or whatever, the kid's being like 16, 17, she would be like in her 50s, but she's been an adult doing this, and has undoubtedly, cracked into some dark stuff. Then that battle, for sure, it might take the both of them to take her on. But then at that point, that's when she realizes she needs to either kill them, corrupt one of them, or expand. So maybe that's when the coven happens. But yeah, these are good questions. Like kind of, there's more holes in the story than I was aware of. But yeah, that's essentially where I would want to go with it, and just explore. And obviously there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but for me the most interesting thing is explore what it's like if the avatar was born into 2 bodies, and the presence of dark magic
in a universe with benders.
Yeah.
And modern technology.
Yep. Let's play with that.
It's kind of interesting. It's pretty different.
Yeah. Although I just realized a very unforeseen twist with them pulling I think it was Legacy of the Force Boba Fett move, where they put poisonous spores on Mandalore so that he can never return, because it was spores that were specifically targeted for his DNA, which meant he could never go home, because the second he goes home, he would die.
Even with his suit on?
Yeah. I mean, eventually he's on a planet. Eventually he would have to take his helmet off, replenish, like anything. I mean, imagine he lands the plane. He lands the spaceship, opens it, his whole interior is filled with this toxic air, which means he can't take his helmet off even on his ship. So then he has to fly with it, and like it's air. Eventually it's going to penetrate something. So that was their punishment in him. So it'd be interesting if the humans was like, you know what, everyone, we're just gonna make the planet poisonous for all benders and magic users. That would be interesting. But that's a whole other dark story.
It's so dark.
That is very dark.
Like half the population at least is benders. That's so dark.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knew? In the end, the humans won.
Against other humans.
Well, yeah, but they're like benders, so
They're still human.
Benders are. Never mind. So, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel.
Wherever that button is on the screen.
Follow us on the TikTok.
TikTok.
Spectrum Nerds with 2 S's, or Twitter Broad Spec Nerds with 1 S.
Probably. That sounds right.
Yeah.
See you
Next time.